Hello, this is Scott, and I'm talking to you today in this presentation about some options as to what you can do to get out of debt. There's a lot of information on this website, but some people prefer to watch rather than read, and frankly, I don't blame you. So let's talk about this. Of course, the situation is one that may be familiar to you, and that is the creditor calls, which are a constant reminder of the debt problem and something you want to get rid of as fast as possible. So this is a familiar conversation many of you may have had in the past or currently and want to avoid in the future. So let's get down to talking about what can you do to avoid the situation and to get out of debt. Unfortunately, as we all know, your debt will not go in its own, and it's something that has to be dealt with. So seeking out help or helping yourself are the best options. One by one. The first option is, of course, the most obvious, but one that has to be mentioned because it's definitely the best choice, and that is to look at your budget, take a good hard look at your expenses, your lifestyle, and see if there's any way that you could pay off this debt on your own. That is definitely the best way to do it. It's the cleanest and the easiest, the least expensive for you, and the best long term in terms of your credit score and other things as well. But let's say, of course, that you've already thought about this option and it's something you've looked at and can no longer do any more cutting of your budget and you really need some help. What types of professional help are available? That's a good question, but first let's talk about how bad your problem is, because that's really going to define the type of help you may need to seek out. In other words, will an interest rate decrease and maybe some reduction in some of the late fees and other charges that credit card companies charge you, would that be enough to get the payment down to get you over the hump and allow you to actually start paying more than just the minimum monthly payment? If that would be enough for you, then you should check out debt management programs. These are programs offered through credit counseling agencies, and like I mentioned, they do reduce your interest rates and fees, but they do not reduce the principal balance that you owe. That is a key distinction. They will get you out of debt in approximately 5 to 7 years. They do provide a great deal of budgeting assistance, and the credit score damage is relatively modest. It's something you should discuss with them if it is a path you decide to pursue. You've probably heard a lot of these companies described as non-profit credit counseling companies. Something you should know is that that does not mean that they are free to you. However, I will say that the fees that they do charge are modest because they do provide a social service to consumers, and the IRS allows them to claim non-profit status as companies. That really has no effect on you, just something you should know. So if your financial ship has sprung a small leak that needs some patching, then you want to consider debt management. But let's say you need more help than that. Let's say a small reduction in interest rates will not get you over the hump. You need a lot more help than that. Then you need to look at what your other options are. And unfortunately, bankruptcy always pops into everyone's mind. That is obviously a last resort. It's something you want to avoid if possible. So let's talk about the best bankruptcy alternative, and that is debt settlement. You've probably also heard it called debt negotiation. It's really the same thing. Is it right for you? Let's take a look and see what it's all about, and you can make that decision. It's for unsecured debts, primarily credit card bills. The process typically takes 3 years, sometimes less. It will reduce your monthly payment by actually reducing the total balance on your credit card. It is a negotiation process that the debt settlement company you would hire enters into with the credit card company that you owe money to, and they try and reduce the balance down. So let's say you owe credit card company A $30,000. This debt settlement company would approach them over a period of time and try and negotiate that amount down to, let's say, $15,000. So the savings can be as much as 50%, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. And the way it works is you pay money into a fixed amount of money into a monthly as a monthly deposit into an account, and that account is set up for you by the debt settlement company. And as that account builds, your debt settlement company will start to approach your creditors one by one, and use the money in that account to pay off the settlement amount that's agreed to. Here's what you need to know. Of course, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, and it does help a lot of people, but there are drawbacks. Your credit score will suffer because your accounts go into default during the process. There are, of course, no guarantees that the settlement will be successful. You need to know that you also have to pay tax to the IRS on the savings that you incur. So if you save, let's say, $15,000, because that's the amount that your debt is reduced by, the IRS considers that income to you. So you'll have to turn around and pay the IRS tax on that income. Not something to be too alarmed about, but it is something you want to budget for up front and talk to your debt settlement company about so you can be prepared to pay that tax when it comes due. So debt settlement's meant for people who are in serious trouble and really need a bankruptcy alternative. There still is a payment you do have to make, but it would be drastically reduced from your current payments. And you would get out of debt much, much faster within a 3-year time frame, whereas doing it on your own may take much longer unless you had a significant income boost. The last resort, of course, as we mentioned earlier, is bankruptcy. So here are the 4 options to sum up. You want to save yourself if at all possible. Do any budgeting you can. I assume you've already done that, so then you need to look at debt management programs if you need some minor help in terms of a payment program that would reduce the payments. If you need a lot of help, then look into debt settlement. And of course, if you are just too swamped in debt and your income nowhere near is enough to meet the payments, then unfortunately you may need to consider bankruptcy if all other alternatives do not pan out. So what's the best for you? Well, that's something only you can decide. There's a lot of information on this website, as you know, and you can learn about your options, talk to some companies, and do what you feel most comfortable with. Whatever you do, just commit yourself to getting out of debt. I hope the information on this little presentation has been helpful, and I encourage you to look around the site, and good luck to you. Thank you.